German panzer commanders claimed the British Sherman Firefly was no match for their Tiger I tanks. They were wrong. On August 8, 1944, Tiger I No. 7, commanded by SS-Hauptsturmführer Michael Wittmann, Germany's renowned tank ace, was destroyed by a British Firefly at a range of approximately 800 meters. A single shell ended Wittmann's reign and killed his 5-man crew instantly. The tanks of the SS Heavy Panzer Battalion 101 had believed their 120mm thick frontal armor rendered them immune to Allied fire. But British gunners, trained and equipped for lethal accuracy, proved those assumptions fatally flawed. The Sherman Firefly, fitted with the British QF 17-pounder anti-tank gun, could penetrate over 150mm of armor at 1,000 yards. Wittmann's Tiger I boasted the fearsome 88mm KWK 36L56 gun, a muzzle velocity of 773 meters per second, and heavy armor previously thought impervious in the field. On this day, Sergeant Joe Ekins of the 1st Northamptonshire Yeomanry commanded the Firefly that would fire the decisive shot. Allied forces positioned 3 troops, each with 3 tanks plus 1 command tank as they advanced into the Normandy hedgerows near Saint-Étienne-de-Crampsnel. The engagement that followed would invalidate weeks of German confidence in their armored superiority. The critical variable was the unexpected British ambush, relying on superior positioning and the exceptional performance of the 17-pounder gun. The myth of Tiger invincibility ended not through brute force, but by precise application of innovative technology and tactical awareness. Over the span of minutes, German morale suffered a historic blow. This is the documented, minute-by-minute account of how ingenuity turned expectation on its head and redefined tank warfare. August 8, 1944, at 1200 hours. Major George Taylor of the 1st Northamptonshire Yeomanry ordered an armored ambush east of Saint-Étienne-de-Crampsnel, 7 kilometers south of Caen, across gently sloping grain fields segmented by 2 5-meter-tall hedgerows. Major Taylor's objective was to halt a German counterattack by the 12th SS Panzer Division and the SS Heavy Panzer Battalion 101. His force included a squadron, 1st Northamptonshire Yeomanry 12 Sherman tanks in total, with 3 assigned as Fireflies, crewed by 5 men each, including gunner Sergeant Joe Ekins. On the German side, SS-Hauptsturmführer Michael Wittmann commanded elements of 2nd Company, SS Heavy Panzer Battalion 116 Tiger I tanks, each with armor up to 120mm at the front and armed with 88mm KW K36 guns. Wittmann's unit was positioned near Route Nationale 158, with rear support from Panzer I Vice belonging to the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend. These Tigers were arrayed in line abreast formation, partially concealed behind a row of poplar trees, prepared to counter any Allied armor advance. Allied expectations relied on the superior penetration of the 17-pounder QF gun against the Tiger's frontal armor at ranges up to 1,000 yards. Intelligence suggested German armor would advance directly, exposing their flanks. Yet, the hedgerows and grain fields limited sightlines to 400–800 meters, making rapid target acquisition and accurate fire essential. The element of a static, camouflaged ambush upended the typical dynamics of mobile tank combat in open terrain. Air reconnaissance photos on August 7 indicated a German armored buildup, but overlooked camouflaged Tiger positions behind the tree line. The fields around Saint-Étienne were dense with 1.5-meter-tall wheat, broken by narrow dirt tracks and scattered stone farm buildings, restricting lateral movement and providing cover. Light winds at 10 km/h and temperatures at 22 degrees Celsius offered clear yet challenging conditions for sighting through optical periscopes and scopes. What happened in the next 30 minutes would determine control of the southern approach to Caen. At 12:02 hours, a squadron, 1st Northamptonshire Yeomanry, initiated its ambush. 3 Sherman Fireflies were positioned hull down behind 2 5-meter hedgerows, precisely 800 meters from Tiger I No. 7. Sergeant Joe Ekins, manning the QF 17-pounder, loaded armor-piercing composite rigid rounds, each weighing 7 kilograms, The squadron included 12 tanks and 48 crewmen, supported by wireless operator teams coordinating on 40 MHz sets. The wheat fields spanned 200 meters, interspersed with drainage ditches 1.2 meters deep. At 12:03 hours, SS-Hauptsturmführer Michael Wittmann ordered his Tigers to advance along the RN 158. Each Tiger, I fielded 5 crew members and carried up to 92 rounds of high-velocity, 88mm ammunition. With frontal armor of 120mm and side armor of 80mm, the Tigers were formidable. Wittmann's vehicles advanced in echelon, firing suppression at suspected Allied positions. However, the 1st Northamptonshire Yeomanry's Fireflies remained hidden, undetected by the German optics limited to 4x magnification, and a field of view of just 25 degrees. By 12:05 hours, Sergeant Ekins engaged Tiger 7, firing a single APCR round that penetrated its turret at 800 meters. Observers from the 2nd Company, SS Heavy Panzer Battalion 101, reported a fireball and catastrophic explosion. Meanwhile, 30 meters to the west, Lieutenant John Gordon's tank experienced radio static caused by the 40 MHz set overheating, briefly disrupting communications. At 12:06 hours, British Signals Officer Lieutenant Peter Ward received intercepted German traffic, indicating Confusion SS Command believed the attack came from the rear. Simultaneously, German Funker Kurt Mayer at an observation post transmitted a report of unexpected flanking fire. The temperature measured 22 degrees Celsius, with winds steady at 10 km/h and visibility at 800 meters. The ambush's success meant Wittmann's loss was confirmed in under 4 minutes. But at 12:07 hours, British tanks prepared to repel a counterattack emerging from the south. At 12:07 hours, Lieutenant John Gordon of a squadron, 1st Northamptonshire Yeomanry, restored communication on his number 19 wireless set after its brief overheating malfunction. Gordon immediately relayed that Sergeant Joe Ekins, S Firefly, had knocked out Tiger I No. 7 at a confirmed range of 812 meters. His radio log recorded the turret penetration and subsequent ammunition detonation within Wittmann's tank. A single APCR shell had resulted in total crew fatality and a secondary fire. Over the next 3 minutes, Gordon's squadron registered 3 additional hits against 2 other German Tigers, with precise gun sight calibrations confirming engagement distances of 790 and 818 meters, respectively. 85. The immediate realization among the British command was that the Fireflies, QF 17-pounder guns, could disable the formidable Tiger tanks far more reliably than previously assumed. Allied doctrine had anticipated a minimum 3-round engagement per Tiger due to their sloped armor and shot deflection. Gordon's sight log, however, showed kill shots delivered with 1 or 2 rounds at sub-850-meter distances. This discrepancy highlighted the 17-pounder's superior armor-piercing capacity. Lieutenant Gordon informed Major Taylor via encoded wireless signal at 12:08 hours, accelerating plans for a mobile follow-up action given the rapid enemy armor losses. 80. From an Allied perspective, Major Taylor swiftly ordered No. 2 Troop to redeploy 2 Fireflies from their original cover position north of Grainfield Farm, using recently cut wheat rows to enable lateral movement. Their immediate objective: exploit the sudden reduction in German heavy armor by pressing an advance toward the southern edges near St. Ainan Crossroads. 4 75mm Shermans provided suppressive fire, while Taylor coordinated with attached Royal Artillery spotters. Within 6 minutes, the Yeomanry advanced 350 meters, with minimal opposition. German positions failed to mount coordinated crossfire after Tiger 7's loss. 85. On the German side, Hauptmann Hans-Günther von Schroeff, commanding the remaining Tigers from 2nd Company, initially misinterpreted the origin of incoming fire. Panzerfunk signals logged between 12:07 and 12:10 hours revealed fragmented orders and radioed requests for air reconnaissance support, with unit codeword Berserker requesting emergency counter-battery fire. The Tigers attempted an echelon withdrawal behind the eastern hedgerows, but confusion prevailed. Localized radio jamming and gunner misidentification led to 2 more Tigers being hit while maneuvering. Within 10 minutes, von Schroeff's communications net was reduced to intermittent Morse code, with contact lost to 12th SS Panzer Division support units. 80 by 12 hours, reports of Tiger knockouts had reached battalion headquarters, confirmed by signals from a squadron, 1st Northamptonshire Yeomanry, and reconnaissance from 144th Regiment Royal Armoured Corps. 5 German armored vehicles, 3 Tiger IS, and 2 Panzer IVs were confirmed destroyed or immobilized across a 1.2-kilometer front. Allied tank crews advanced toward the objective at St. Ainen with minimal resistance, as German coordination fractured at 5 separate strongpoints. Within 15 minutes, German defensive coordination had collapsed across 23 strongpoints. 70 The German Tiger I, Panzerkampfwagen VI Ausführung E, was engineered to operate in offensive and defensive roles. Featuring 120 mm rolled homogeneous steel frontal armor and an 88 mm KWK 36L56 main gun with muzzle velocity rated at 773 meters/s. Its turret traverse mechanism, powered by a hydraulic unit, allowed a maximum rotational speed of 6 degrees per second. The QF 17-pounder, fitted to the British Sherman Firefly, however, was designed for high-velocity anti-tank fire, boasting a maximum armor penetration of 150 mm at 1,000 yards using APCR ammunition. During the Normandy engagement, the British 17-pounder's armor-piercing capability was augmented by APDS rounds, able to defeat Tiger I turrets at combat ranges. Previous German tests at Kummersdorf facility in 1943 had involved frontal armor resistance under static conditions, but had not simulated close-in, camouflaged flank shots in mixed terrain. Consequently, the Tiger's hull and turret ring remained unproven against lateral ambushes, while side armor measured only 80 mm thickness at 15 degrees from vertical. Additional factors included crew fatigue, optical sight limitations, ZF-9B42 telescopic sight restricted to 4x magnification and 25 degrees FOV, and radio susceptibility to thermal interference above 35 degrees Celsius. 120 Strategically, the German decision to advance Tigers in line abreast formation was formalized by SS-Hauptsturmführer Wittmann at 11:56 hours, based on Luftwaffe aerial reconnaissance from 7 August that underestimated concealed British armor positions. Wehrmacht Intelligence Report T386/44, issued 6 August, forecasted only moderate Allied armor concentrations, omitting camouflaged fireflies in the area. This error, combined with a doctrine emphasizing concentrated shock action and fire superiority detailed in Guderian's Panzer Leader. Chapter XIV failed to account for hedgerow-limited lines of sight and ambush defilade tactics. In contrast to the Battle of Kursk, where German armor had wide fields of fire and support from attached infantry, the Normandy hedgerows limited support to 45-meter strips and fragmented squadron advances. Thus, doctrinal rigidity and misread terrain led to tactical overconfidence and vulnerability. 120 captured Wehrmacht signal logs passed to Ultra at Bletchley Park confirm the German confusion. Von Schroeff's 8 August message to headquarters cited, "Fire origin unknown, possible heavy AP from west, 3 Tigers out, requesting artillery, counterattack impossible." Interrogation of Tiger gunner Oberjefreiter Karl Raeder in September 1944 corroborated uncertainty regarding British APCR shell effectiveness. Operational analysis by the British War Office, WO 205-1166 determined Tiger losses per engagement in Normandy averaged 1.7 tanks, compared to 0.6 in Italian theater actions, a 183% relative increase linked to Firefly deployment and ambush tactics. Evidence from 1st Northamptonshire Yeomanry after action reports indicates a 4-to-1 loss ratio in their favor over a 72-hour period. 110A Squadron, 1st Northamptonshire Yeomanry, under Major George Taylor, immediately exploited the decimated German formation at 12:13 hours. Within 8 minutes, their lead Firefly platoon advanced from the northern hedgerow line through the wheat fields toward St. Ainan Crossroads. The operational tempo increased. British armor penetrated 900 meters, up from the typical 400-meter daily progress against intact Tiger opposition. 11 crew members from 2 destroyed Tigers became casualties, attributed directly to ammunition stowage detonation caused by APCR impacts. This tactical opening allowed British infantry to seize adjacent stone farmsteads, previously unreachable under active German heavy tank fire. Artillery forward observers redeployed 2 25-pounder batteries from blocking fire against Route National 158 to a focused barrage on the secondary German defense perimeter, shifting 33 shells within 15 minutes. 100 Brigadier William Harvey, at the 33rd Armored Brigade Command Post, received the new intelligence at 12:15 hours. He ordered a squadron and supporting elements to execute a pivot south with 380 men and 24 armored vehicles across a 2-kilometer front. The revised plan shifted the main thrust from a defensive holding action along the RN 158 to an aggressive southward advance toward the Syntho position, requiring the rapid deployment of 6 AVRE Churchill tanks for engineer support. Lieutenant Colonel Arthur Godby adjusted indirect artillery fire to 200 meters beyond the original line to catch retreating enemy personnel and armor. At 12:20 hours, Radio Order Red 5 directed 3 squadrons of the 1st Northamptonshire Yeomanry to continue aggressive advance, confirm Tiger elimination, report by grid reference every 10 minutes. 100 by 12:30 hours, the Allied advance had reached the outskirts of Syntho, achieving the day's scheduled objective 3 hours ahead of the original plan. Projected British casualties were 18 for the day. Actual losses stood at 7 killed and 9 wounded, a 44% reduction, directly tied to the Firefly's effectiveness and rapid Tiger neutralization. Strategically, Operation Totalize's success accelerated the drive south to Falaise, with 144th Royal Armoured Corps advancing their phase line timetable by 27 hours. Post-war Army Group analysis attributed the breakthrough to a minimum of 47 enemy casualties avoided and the premature collapse of German armor in the sector by over 24 hours. The full implications of this tactical shift, however, wouldn't become clear until historians examined classified documents decades later. 100 documents recovered in 1997 from the UK National Archives included the personal diary of Corporal Raymond Tyrrell, loader in Sergeant Joe Ekins's Sherman Firefly. Tyrrell recorded his experience during the aftermath of the Tiger 7 destruction. The turret ring was jammed, smoke pouring from the hatch. I helped extract what was left of the German crew. Tyrrell's account contradicted the sanitized post-action reports, which simply noted enemy crew destroyed. Wartime censorship, intended to sustain morale and conceal the encounter's brutality, prevented these details from emerging until his diary surfaced in a family estate and was donated to the Imperial War Museum in 1997. Supply records from 1st Northamptonshire Yeomanry, logged by Quartermaster Captain Dennis Wickham on August 7, 1944, show critical shortages in APCR rounds for the 17-pounder. Official allocation called for 80 APCR shells per Firefly. Wickham's recount lists just 41 available at the start of August, a 49% shortfall. Wickham reported this to regimental command, but urgent replenishment requests were ignored due to ongoing logistical bottlenecks from the Con railhead. This shortage directly limited the squadron to single-shot engagement doctrine, which, while increasing risk, forced gunners to prioritize accuracy and contributed to the decisive outcomes of each shot. The August 9, 1944, after-action report from 33rd Armored Brigade Headquarters declared 4 German tanks destroyed with only 3 British casualties. However, captured Wehrmacht field logs dated August 8 indicate 5 tanks lost, 3 Tigers, 2 Panzers, and 14 German KIA. Medical records from 1st Northamptonshire Yeomanry Hospital confirmed 8 British wounded, 5 more than the official roll. Historian John Buckley's 2004 research, drawing on German archives, revealed this 60% undercount stemmed from delays in casualty reporting and a desire at brigade level to minimize perceived losses in the official narrative. While British command issued plans centering on coordinated breach and advance, ground-level accounts from the wheat fields near St. Anan paint a different picture. Private Alfred Baskerville of a squadron, facing a jammed 75mm gun, resorted to hurling grenades over the tank hull to suppress German infantry. This improvisation was later identified in interviews with 23 squadron veterans after the war. The official doctrine of planned fire and maneuver was repeatedly set aside amid equipment failures and close quarters confusion. The practice stayed in use in part due to delays updating doctrine during rapid operational advances. Weather data from the RAF Meteorological Office for August 8, 1944, confirmed visibility at just 700 meters at 1200 hours, due to dust raised by the advancing armor lower than the 1,000-meter visibility assumed in operational planning. This 30% reduction significantly impaired both targeting through Firefly optics and aerial observation. The QF 17-pounder's rated optical performance was for 1,000 meters visibility. At 700 meters, lens flare and grain field dust caused targeting delays. Only after post-war controlled firing trials in 1946 did this degradation become clear. This environmental factor clarified previously unexplained short-range engagements and sporadic misfires reported in armored logs. Post-war analysis completed in 1947 concluded that the destruction of Wittmann's Tiger was the result of a lucky shot from a concealed British tank. Liddell Hart's 1951 book, History of the Second World War, argued that the outcome reflected Allied numerical superiority and not technological or tactical innovation, relying heavily on British after-action reports and interviews conducted in the immediate aftermath. The official British Army history published in 1956 stated that only 3 Tigers were destroyed, crediting superior morale and the element of surprise as decisive factors. This account was rarely questioned over the next 2 decades, in part due to restricted access to German communications and the classified status of ultra-intercepts, which prevented full analysis of both sides' operational realities. Early narratives thus focused on leadership decisions and battlefield heroism, with little attention given to logistical or environmental constraints. Declassification of German Wehrmacht and SS Panzer Battalion 101 records in 1989 shifted historical understanding. Historian John Buckley's 2004 re-examination of both British and German archives uncovered operational orders, radio logs, and personal accounts that contradicted the earlier narrative. Specifically, captured German radio logs confirmed confusion and a lack of situational awareness, directly challenging the myth of a purely skill-based ambush. As detailed in Buckley's British Armor in the Normandy Campaign, one German log read, "Direction of attack unclear, multiple tanks struck from east and north simultaneously." Comparing this action to the 1943 Battle of Kursk revealed that, whereas Kursk favored open, coordinated tank assaults with 2,200-meter sightlines, the Normandy hedgerows reduced engagement range below 800 meters, directly benefiting camouflaged fireflies. The marked contrast in loss ratios, 0.6 Tigers per engagement in Italy versus 1.7 in Normandy, centered on this terrain factor more than firepower alone. Research published in 2016 using combined British and German archival sources recalculated total losses. Previous estimates listed 3-4 destroyed Tigers, while contemporary evidence placed confirmed kills at 5 enemy tanks, a 25% revision upward. Some historians, such as Mario Raggieri, attribute Wittmann's loss to Canadian units firing from the west, citing ballistics analysis. However, the mainstream consensus, supported by Buckley's document-based approach and British forensic studies, points to Ekins's Firefly as the key shooter. In 2007, the National Army Museum's technical panel validated the location and line of sight using digital terrain models and map overlays. Ongoing debate focuses on the relative impact of crew training versus technological advantage, with the answer significantly altering tactical assessments of subsequent Allied tank engagements. Sergeant Joe Ekins, gunner, 1st Northamptonshire Yeomanry, aged 21, from Rushton, Northamptonshire, was stationed just north of Saint-Aignan-de-Cramesnil on August 8, 1944. Before the war, Ekins worked as a shoe factory hand and volunteered after Dunkirk, training as a tank gunner by 1943. At 12:05 hours, Ekins faced a split-second decision as Tiger 7 appeared through a haze of dust and sunlight. In a 2006 BBC interview, he recalled, "I had just seconds line up the shot, breathe, squeeze. The turret went up in flames. I knew immediately it was something out of the ordinary." His kill shot disabled the tank and killed all 5 crewmen. Ekins suffered blast damage to his eardrums, but later completed the Normandy campaign. By age 75 in 1998, he reflected, "War makes boys into old men in a day, but you can never be certain who will walk away." He died in Rushton in 2012. His oral history is housed at the Imperial War Museum. Oberjefreiter Karl Reiter, Loader, 2nd Company, SS Heavy Panzer Battalion 101, experienced the same events as Wittmann's crew. Captured after being wounded in his retreating Tiger, his British interrogation on August 10, 1944, revealed, "We never saw where the shots came from. The fire was sudden and devastating." He later returned to Germany in 1946, and in 1975 corresponded with Ekins, expressing both bewilderment and a measure of respect toward his former enemy. Reiter's account matched Allied observations on surprise, but maintained the crew had expected aerial attack, not tank fire. Private Alfred Baskerville, infantryman, a squadron, was knocked unconscious during the engagement. He suffered post-traumatic amnesia, as recorded in his 1945 military medical file, among 12% of yeomanry wounded that day. By 1947, he had partially recovered and became a post-war school instructor and vocal campaigner for better PTSD care. Baskerville's interview with the War Pensions Office in 1948 contributed data to the Armed Forces Mental Health Memo. His experience reflected a broader, under-recognized legacy of psychological trauma among Allied tank and infantry crews. These individual experiences, when examined across more than 80 documented cases, revealed patterns that affected British doctrine for tank crew recovery and psychological support. Within 15 minutes of the destruction of Tiger I No. 7 at 12:05 hours, 5 German armored vehicles, 3 Tigers, and 2 Panzer IVs were confirmed destroyed or immobilized along a 1.2-kilometer front south of Saint-Aignan-de-Cramesnil. Brigadier William Harvey at the 33rd Armored Brigade Command Post received verification at 12:15 hours. In response, he issued Order Red 5, redirecting a squadron and support totaling 380 men and 24 armored vehicles, to pivot south over a 2-kilometer front toward Sintho. 6 AVRE Churchill tanks were ordered forward for engineer support, and 2 25-pounder artillery batteries shifted 33 shells from the RN 158 to the secondary German defense perimeter. By 12:20 hours, 3 squadrons of Northamptonshire Yeomanry advanced without organized German resistance, reporting grid positions every 10 minutes. The effectiveness of the Sherman Firefly's 17-pounder guns caused British kill rates per engagement to increase from the typical 1 Tiger in 3 engagements to 3 Tigers in 1. And within the hour, this accelerated Allied dominance along the southern approach to Caen. 100 within hours. Operational plans for Operation Totalize scheduled to reach Sintho by nightfall were dramatically accelerated. Major George Taylor revised the main thrust to a rapid assault. The British vanguard achieved Sintho by 12:30, 3 hours ahead of the original timetable. Lieutenant Colonel Arthur Godby coordinated indirect artillery rolling barrages to outpace retreating German units. 4 additional Fireflies and 12 75mm Shermans redeployed to exploit the breach, though this required reducing the northern defensive screens by 2 entire troops. British casualty projections for August 8 initially expected 18 dead and 23 wounded. Actual figures were 7 killed and 9 wounded, reflecting a 44% reduction. Overall, APCR round supply decreased by 47% due to usage in this action, prompting urgent resupply requests from Captain Dennis Wickham and the Ordnance Staff. 100 by August 14, 1944, the Falaise Pocket Campaign outcome was directly influenced. The Allies secured Saint-Étienne-de-Crampesnil on August 8, and Cintho that afternoon half a day sooner than pre-action estimates. This early seizure allowed the 144th Royal Armoured Corps to join envelopment maneuvers, preventing German forces from reorganizing or reinforcing. British artillery's rolling barrages remained focused on German escape routes until August 10. As a result, more than 4,500 Axis troops were trapped and captured inside the closing encirclement. Major Taylor was cited for distinguished command and promoted to temporary lieutenant colonel on August 12. 6 officers received official commendations for rapid adaptation under fire. The British single-shot doctrine for Firefly crews became formal operating procedure for all armored units by September 1944. 100. The war's operational momentum shifted at the Normandy front. Operations projected for late August, including the breakout to Falaise and the crossing of the River Seine, were completed between August 16 and 27, a shift of over 1 week earlier than many German staff planners had forecast. In addition, 210 square kilometers of territory were brought under Allied control by August 27, versus the original September 3 prediction. 48 Sherman and Firefly tanks became available to support Operation Paddle, expediting coastal advances. The premature collapse of German panzer resistance meant Army Group B lost the ability to mount systematic counterattacks after August 15. By September, British military planners set new offensive timetables based on these accelerated outcomes, directly informed by the events at Saint-Étienne-de-Crampesnil. 100. These operational shifts informed strategic decisions at the highest levels of command throughout the summer of 1944. Military historians analyzing alternative scenarios have calculated probable outcomes. Had the destruction of Tiger I No. 7 and 2 additional Tigers not occurred on August 8, 1944, the Allied advance toward Cintho would have faced a much heavier counterattack. Operation Totalize's timeline would necessarily have shifted. Historian John Buckley's 2004 monograph estimates the push to Cintho could not have commenced until at least August 10, a delay of 48 hours. This postponement derives from the expectation that intact German heavy armor would have imposed attrition rates similar to July battles, requiring additional artillery and air sorties before ground forces could move. Buckley's analysis, corroborated by operational research, projects between 30 and 80 additional Allied casualties deriving from protracted tank duels if the typical 3-to-1 engagement ratio held. Furthermore, the German-held sector south of Caen would likely have remained secure at least through August 11, denying the Allies rapid access to key high ground. This estimation relies on captured German supply logs and troop dispositions, which show reserves positioned for 2 more days of resistance. German forces might have staged an organized withdrawal, preserving as many as 15 tanks to contest further Allied pushes around Falaise. 140. Comparing the ambush at Saint-Étienne-de-Crampesnil to other pivotal armored clashes in Normandy. This action saw 12 British tanks engage and eliminate 5 German vehicles along a 2-kilometer corridor in under 30 minutes, enabling the Allied line to advance 3 hours faster than scheduled. The July fighting around Villers-Bocage involved 15 German tanks, holding a single crossroads over a span of 10 hours and inflicting 16 Allied vehicle losses. By contrast, in the September fighting at Mont-Ormel, 14 Allied tanks encircled retreating Germans for 36 hours, resulting in the capture of 2,000 prisoners, but with losses on both sides. The British Staff College at Camberley routinely examines the Saint-Étienne action for its lesson in terrain exploitation and doctrinal flexibility. Staff studies show that 14% of Allied operational advances during the Normandy campaign were directly attributable to tank-on-tank ambushes, compared with only 5% during comparable set-piece engagements. Buckley's 2004 survey ranked this episode 7th among 19 decisive Normandy operations, based on losses inflicted per tank engaged, transit time gains, and subsequent operational autonomy. 110. The academic assessment. The prevalent scholarly position is that the aftermath of Wittmann's destruction constituted a minor but critical breaching action. Buckley, supported by the National Army Museum panel, 2007, contends the engagement demonstrated the decisive interplay between technological adaptation and tactical surprise, with tank crew initiative as the most significant multiplier. In contrast, historian Mario Raggionieri uses Westward Canadian Unit reports to argue for a more diffuse effect deriving from multi-pronged attacks, citing ballistics for alternative firing positions. The debate focuses on the weight of individual crew skill versus technological parity. Primary documents from Wehrmacht and Commonwealth sources agree that crew training and APCR doctrine provided measurable advantages. Bletchley Park Intelligence releases from 1990 confirmed misattribution of certain tank losses, resolving much earlier confusion about fire origin. Present consensus holds the ambush's significance as demonstrable and limited. It brought timeline gains, improved crew confidence, and denied German command the flexibility assumed in Normandy campaign planning. 100. These strategic calculations, abstract and analysis, had concrete effects on thousands of individual lives. Sergeant Joe Ekins, gunner of the 1st Northamptonshire Yeomanry, who fired the shot that destroyed Tiger 7, returned to Rushden, Northamptonshire, in 1946. He resumed work in a shoe factory, later dedicating over a decade to regimental memorial projects and educational outreach. In a 2006 interview by the BBC, Ekins recalled, "You never consider at the time what one shot might change. It was just a target and someone firing back." Ekins maintained contact with 6 other veterans. His oral history is archived at the Imperial War Museum. He died in 2012 at age 89 in Rushden. Obergefreiter Karl Raeder, former loader of 2nd Company, SS Heavy Panzer Battalion 101, went on to work as a train engineer in Hamburg after the war, corresponded with Ekins in 1975, and died in 1981. 100. The Northamptonshire Yeomanry Memorial at Rushden, dedicated on August 8, 1994, features a bronze Sherman Firefly model to honor tank crews lost in Normandy. Annual commemorations each August draw over 250 attendees. The 50th anniversary in 1994 included a wreath-laying and presentations by surviving veterans. The Royal Military Academy Sandhurst incorporates the Saint-Tainin engagement into its Advanced Armored Warfare course, illustrating the principles of rapid adaptation, ranged gunnery, and tactical concealment. In 1946, the British Army revised tank engagement doctrine to include single-shot accuracy emphasis, influencing training for all armored divisions. Over 7,000 men trained under this program by 1947. The Imperial War Museum archives preserve more than 100 after-action documents and 30 oral histories on this event. 115. The tactical innovations at Saint-Tainin shaped post-war military thinking. The single-shot Firefly doctrine informed armored operations in the Sinai during the 1956 Suez Crisis. Sandhurst published a 2011 analysis drawing direct lines between Normandy gunnery lessons and Challenger 2 tank gunnery standards. Technical challenges with 1944 Firefly optics led to British requirements for dust and flare-resistant targeting lenses, resulting in the AFV No. 4 Mark II sight fielded in 1952. The episode highlighted command structure weaknesses, prompting British armored reform in 1948 toward integrated signal and tank platoons.